Hi guys, this is just going to be a quick little video to kind of explain why my accent is weird. Because I'm sure I am not the only one who's noticed it. As I edit my videos, I notice that I definitely do slip in and out of a southern accent. And this is why. So 65 months ago, I was born to a full-blooded Texas man and a full-blooded Louisiana woman in Texas, where I did most of my growing up. And Texas obviously has a bit of a southern accent. It's not as strong as Mississippi, Alabama, but it definitely has a twang. So when at 13, my daddy kicked me out of the house because I was a bad influence on my stepsister, although I still maintain she was just as bad an influence on me. But anyway, whatever. I was sent to live with my mom, who had at that point moved to Hawaii. And in Hawaiian high school, I was obviously a minority. And at the time, my name was Rachel Lynn May. And so everybody at that school just thought it was the height of hilarity that Rachel Lynn May was coming in. Hi y'all, I'm Rachel Lynn May. And so every time I saw them, they would say some shit about my accent. And of course, I'm a 13-year-old girl trying to fit in a new place. So I decided I was going to lose my accent. And I worked really hard to make my accent as neutral as possible. And I think I succeeded pretty freaking well. Then I'm 17 years old, and it is either the day before or the day after Thanksgiving. I have, by this point, moved out of my mom's house. She's actually moved off the island, and I am living with like 10 other people around my age. And we decided to celebrate Thanksgiving, we were going to go mushroom hunting. Not the legal kind. Not recommended, because although it was really fun getting up early, driving out there, going into the fields, finding the mushrooms, we had a good time, and then every single one of us went on a bad trip. And I decided that with my bad trip, I would call my daddy and tell him exactly how things really were going. Because, you know, I had convinced them that I was doing really well and I didn't need no adult supervision, and I had a job and I had a house and I was fine and I don't need your help and I'm 17 and I'm all grown up. And then I go on a bad trip and I call my dad and I'm like, actually the truth is I've lost 2 or 3 jobs since the last time we talked. I am not in school anymore. I have done a lot of really bad things. I'm currently on a really bad mushroom trip. But you know, happy Thanksgiving. And quite frankly, he didn't like that call very much at all. The next day, he called me and said, I have bought you a plane ticket. You will be getting on that plane. The point of that whole story, though, is that, so by 17, I had lost my accent very deliberately. Then I moved back to Texas, where by now they're living in like rural Texas. So I'm moving like way out to the country, who has even more of an accent than what I grew up with. And so even though I tried to fight it, some of that, you know, seeped back in, obviously. Then I ended up moving again, and I have been ping-ponging all over the United States since then. We have so many things to talk about that we've never talked about before, because I've actually even been a nomad before, but that in a very different way, in a fancy RV, very different experience. But I did a lot of traveling and I did a lot of moving from one place to another. As I'm ping-ponging around, I am also sort of, you know, still trying to maintain the neutral accent, but I find that the older I get, especially the more I spend in southern areas, it does sort of start peeking back in. And more I've let it, because I no longer really have the shame that I used to have with it. Because even like after I left Hawaii and after I moved away from Texas the first time, I still would try not to speak with too much of a southern accent, because part of like my self-identity, and one of the only things I ever felt like confident in myself about, was my intelligence. And whether it's fair or not, and it's not, I'm telling you right now, it's not fair, but for whatever reason, people with a southern accent are quite often looked at as being less than intelligent. And because intelligence was like my jam, it's not anymore. I done lost all them brain cells, and I've had to adapt to the fact that I am now, you know, probably below average intelligence, whatever. I'm accepting it. I'm accepting things as they are. But at the time, I certainly wasn't. And so I also maintained the no accent for a long time, or tried to maintain the no accent for a long time because of that. I didn't want to portray that I was unintelligent. And that lasted for many, many, many years. However, my daughter has told me that for as long as she's known me, and she's 18 now, that I've always slipped into the southern accent when my emotions are heightened. So if I'm like really excited about something, if I'm really angry about something, whatever, then my accent will start to come out. But I really did work to sort of keep it down. I haven't been working to keep it down as much. I think that it is mostly a habit not to speak with that accent. So I think most of the time I speak not with, with a very sort of neutral accent. It became just a thing that I did, and I don't even have to think about it anymore. However, I would have to manually dial it back. If I felt myself getting Southern in my talk, I would dial it back. I don't do that anymore though, because I am no longer in a place where I feel ashamed of it. I'm also no longer in a place where I feel like intelligence is a thing that I feel like I need to worry about. I guess because I've accepted that I'm just not as smart, A, as I thought I was to begin with, and B, not even as smart as I used to be. I've literally gone backwards in that regard, that it doesn't really matter anymore if people think I'm dumb. I mean, it's stupid to think that because somebody speaks with a Southern accent, they're not smart. It's obviously not true, but it is still a stereotype, and I don't really care about it anymore. So you will definitely hear, you can take the gal out of the South, but you can never fully take the South out of the gal. And also, obviously, I love to put on accents too. So you'll often hear me just joking around or something. I'll put on a British accent, and it's horrible. I'm very bad at doing accents, but I love the way they feel in my mouth. So I hope that when I do that, I don't offend anybody. I know they're terrible accents, and I am definitely not trying to, dog anybody's accents, because I love accents. So I will occasionally put on an accent, and sometimes I'll even exaggerate a Southern accent. I'm sure I've done that in a video or two. I don't remember, but I'm sure I have. But if it's just a slight Southern twang come out, that's just the Texas in me coming out. Texas is big, and sometimes it's a little too big to keep inside. So if you have been wondering why it is that I usually have virtually no accent and will often slip into a Southern accent, that is why. There you go. Now you know. If you have any questions, let me know. Oh, and I also wanted to tell you too, don't worry about me if you don't hear from me for a while. I am heading up to Mount Rainier, and there is almost no service up there, and so I will probably not have a video out within a week. I don't know for sure, but don't worry about me if you don't hear from me. I'm fine. I'm totally fine. I'm just out of service. But I will be back with grand views of Madame Rainier. At least that's the plan. So thank you very much for joining me for this quick get to know me video. And I hope you have an amazing day, and I will see you later. Love you. Bye.